Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and this is the off-road point of view for the new Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe Overland with the off-road group. So this is basically a Trailhawk minus the sway bar disconnect, but it's got, you know, all-terrain tires, it's got Jeep's advanced air suspension and four-wheel drive system, and this is just going to be, again, like our normal off-road point of view. Something that I can tell you that's been kind of happening so far with the driving with this is it's actually pretty comfortable, but being unibody and having independent front rear suspension, it doesn't have a lot of flex, so you know you kind of go up on tires quite a bit. But the all-wheel drive system four-wheel drive system, sorry, seems to be pretty good at distributing power. The one thing that I will say though, that's been kind of interesting to deal with is the fact that these tires, you know, just aren't quite aggressive enough to be able to tackle on the off-roading that I put these vehicles through from a test perspective. I just took this, I attempted the hill climb that I do with other vehicles, and I couldn't get traction with this, frankly. Now I do have this set at the factory PSI, which is in the 40s, which is pretty high. So, you know, maybe if I had the tires lowered down, then that would help out. But yeah, still, you know, kind of interesting overall. And you guys can kind of hear, you know, with all the bumps and everything, I'm at the second highest setting with the air suspension so that I have a little bit of compression still, because if you go to the top, right, you don't have anything to compress into. That's always freaky going to the side a little bit. But you know, this does a surprisingly good job with most of the trails that I have taken it down so far. You know, again, for being basically, you know, an on-road SUV. And you know what's cool about the Overland over the Trailhawk is I can get a massage while I'm off-roading. So right now, you know, all the stress that I've experienced with off-roading, I can, you know, kind of get a little bit of tension out by getting a massage. So ground clearance though, I do want to mention, is great with this. So I'm actually going to lower it, or not lower it, I'm going to raise it up into the off-road 2 setting. And something that's cool is you can raise it while you're driving. I really appreciate that. So off-road 2 achieved. And the application that I really see this being used in is frankly, you know, obviously these are all season all-terrain tires, so you know, kind of driving in the snow and all that kind of stuff. But the snow mode is not very good in the sand, and sand is not exactly like snow, but there's a lot of similarities in terms of slippage and everything. And I tried the snow mode up the hill, and it's just spun, and it didn't get, the sand mode actually got better traction, the sand and mud mode. Now I haven't done rock mode yet because I haven't done any rock crawling yet. I will be doing that later in the official review that you guys will see on the main channel. But yeah, I mean, I think that, like, if you just want to get to some cool sightseeing spots and everything, this will do it. And you know, it might sound that I'm being like critical on this vehicle, but here's the deal. There is nothing else in this class that can really keep up here with the Grand Cherokee from an off-road perspective, right? I mean, if you put a Ford Explorer in this situation, now I haven't taken the Timberline off-road, but I'm not sure about their all-wheel drive system. Ooh, launch me forward. Wow. I'm not sure about their all-wheel drive system compared to Jeep's. Like, this is pretty dang good, all things considered. But you know, a downside about with this, just like most modern SUVs, is yeah, the fact that it's unibody and has independent front and rear suspension, like I mentioned at the beginning. It's great for on-road ride comfort, it's great for rigidity, but it's not so great when it comes to off-roading because you don't have a lot of flex. And so the all-wheel drive system has to work really hard. Whereas if this was just a simple, you know, like the Jeep Wrangler, body on frame SUV, don't even have to have a solid front axle like the Wrangler, just have a solid rear axle, and you know, just staying that much more planted on the ground helps out quite a bit, where the system wouldn't have to work so much. But still, I mean, overall, I'm impressed, because any other regular SUV would just get so stuck in this situation, if you are wondering. Like I like this point that I've made it up to, I would not be able to make this up in a regular SUV. I would be, well, having to get towed out. The forward-facing camera helps out quite a bit with the tread pattern right there on it, especially for tighter stuff like this, where I don't want to hit into a rock. Obviously, since this is a point of view video, you guys aren't going to be able to see stuff on the outside, but a lot of this clicking you're getting, everything is tires slightly popping off the ground and then going back down. It's a different type of off-roading. It really is. Like in, you know, most other, like I said, in you know, truck-based SUVs, the off-roading that you're doing is, you know, you're trying to stay as planted on the ground as possible, whereas this, you're just relying on that all-wheel drive system to, or not all-wheel drive, I keep saying that, I'm so sorry, that four-wheel drive system to send power to where it needs, because you're just constantly gonna have to pick up tires. But something I think is cool is it's led to some huge advancements in these four-wheel drive systems, right? Because these engineers have to get around quite a bit. Now we're pretty much back at the starting point, so I'm gonna get back to you guys once we're on a different route. Okay, so we are back. I'm on the trail that takes me over to the rock crawling section, which should be pretty interesting here with the 4xe. But anyways, this is kind of like a higher speed trail. I imagine a lot of you that are buying Grand Cherokees could potentially be driving down stuff like this if you live in a more rural area, right? Where this is what your roads look like. So I can kind of show you guys how it drives and handles and everything. I just have it in the auto mode, air suspension set to normal. So traction control's all the way on. Something that really helps out with these roads is have the regeneration on. And so it'll be more aggressive with the slowdown on it. So you don't have to use the brakes really. Another benefit, right, that'll charge the battery a little bit. So you'll use less gas, which is great with the 4xe. But yeah, being unibody and, you know, independent front rear suspension, handling's great. Going through this stuff. The one thing that I would say is, I'm not sure how big of a tire you could fit under this, but you know, maybe you get a tire with a little bit more sidewall if you want a little bit more of a comfortable ride down this stuff. And, you know, obviously air down just a little bit, not a massive amount. You still want to get decent fuel economy, but, you know, just a tiny bit so that you can, you know, have a little bit more of a plush ride. I just have I just have the tire air pressure set to the factory setting right now. Because the factory cold setting's like 39 front and like 42 rear, so warmed up, you know, being a couple more PSI above that makes sense. But yeah, I'm barely using the brakes. Like, I'm pretty much all regen pretty much going through this in terms of like helping me slow down, which is honestly really nice. Kind of makes it more of a stress-free driving experience down these roads, because, you know, I'm not having the, you know, brakes squirm at all, because you're having to press the brakes harder into the corners. And this is four-wheel drive all the time, if you guys are wondering. And you can probably, if you guys have had the screen in view, then it shows you when the suspension is getting hit, which is pretty cool. Now, some things to mention about this package is it has like a lot of ground clearance, like 11.3 inches of ground clearance, and it's you know, it's pretty capable for what it is. So this is pretty much going to sum things up for off-road POV. Again, this is just like the lighter off-roading. I do the harder difficulty stuff on the main channel, but you know, for, you know, little camping trails and everything, I think that this will fit the bill for most people. And we're actually going to pop it into the sand mud mode. Just going to raise the air suspension a little bit. See if we can crawl up this rock obstacle. Look at that. Slipping a little bit. There you go. There's your for the second channel point of view, there's your little rock crawling with the new 4xe Overland. Maybe this section too I can show you guys quickly. I'm just going through stuff that I don't plan on doing with the main channel. Now I went over this with the Tacoma TRD Pro. This might be, maybe this should have been main channel content. Going over this rocky section here. Actually, we're gonna pop it up into rock crawl mode here. So we're gonna put it into neutral. 4-wheel low. Come on. There we go, 4-wheel low. Okay, rock crawl. Okay, raising the suspension. So you guys can see this happening in real time. And yeah, I should be fine. I did, like I said, I did this in a Tacoma TRD Pro, which has less ground clearance than this. Man, these people that are camping probably think this is the weirdest thing they've ever seen. I am 2-pedal driving, by the way. You guys are wondering. Wow, that rock crawl mode's actually really good. Maybe I should have used that on that hill that I couldn't make it up. Because no loss of traction whatsoever with the rock crawl mode. Huh. That gives me a little bit more confidence in this. So this is a quick after clip for the off-road POV using the hill descent control, so you guys can see how this functions. Pretty steep hill. Have to get quite articulated, aka throw wheels up in the air to get through this. But I can say that this is one of the better hill descent control systems in the automotive industry. It's not super loud and obnoxious. It's very smooth. It's not slow enough though, in my personal opinion, because it only goes to 1 mile an hour. And for certain things, I would rather go to half a mile an hour. Like that, picking up a wheel. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I've kind of started to get used to it a little bit more. It's definitely nerve-wracking because you're just constantly tipping from side to side in this, and so it's a different style of off-roading that I am frankly not used to. So it's basically a hill descent control, but it's also, oh, it is doing 0.6 miles. It's also like an off-road cruise control. I thought it was, because it says 1+. So I'm actually going to try this whole thing here. I'm going to be doing braking a little bit, but I'm going to let this kind of drive itself. This is the obstacle that I did in the full review on the main channel. I'm going to see if the Jeep can figure this out with the computers. It's very smooth. So the only thing I'm doing is I am applying brake to kind of angle myself and set myself up. It's not doing anything. +2. Hello, Jeep. Okay, so I had to put some throttle in there. See if it'll climb up it for me now. It's trying to work it out, but it's just spinning. Okay, we're gonna turn it off and we're gonna get out of this hairy situation. Well, you guys got a real treat for the second channel. Oh, hit a skid plate there a little bit. Ooh. I'm gonna go check that out, make sure that's nothing. But yeah, there you go.